Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi, good day. My name is Nur Khakim, and today I would like to deliver the highlight of children and adults in second language learning. But the first, when we talk about second language learning, there are some factors involved in second language acquisition. The first about psychological factors related with intellectual processing, memory, and motor skills. And the second, social factors related with the natural situation and classroom situation. And then the third, by the other psychological variables about the first language, about motivation, and attitude. Okay, so first, we would like to talk about psychological factors. Here, the first about intellectual processing, which is involved in an individual's analytical determination of grammatical structures and rules. And actually, there are two ways here. The first about explication. Explication is the process whereby the rules or structures of a second language are explained to the learner. And then the second, induction. Induction is about learning rules by self-discovery. Okay, the next about memory. Memory is crucial to learning. It is inconceivable that a person with a severe memory impairment could ever learn his or her native language, much less a second language. The learning of the simplest word still requires memories. Okay, and then the second language learners and teachers are forever talking of practice and review related with memory. The reason that practice and review is necessary at all is because of some lack in memory ability. Karena ingatan butuh di maintenance seperti itu. Okay, related with the memory. 12. In 1983, and others stated about episodic memory. What is it? It's only through memory that a learner can accumulate the vast amount of speech and relevant situational data which serves as the basis for analysis, analyzing structures, and formulating rules. So that memory seems to begin its sharpest decline in contrary around the age of puberty actually, and undoubtedly this is due to some change in the brain. What Steinberg said in 1967. This is like another fact. Typically, second language learning becomes more difficult for the 15 or 20 years old than for a 5 or 10 years old. Jadi menjadi pembelajaran bahasa menjadi semakin sulit di usia masuk di usia 15 atau 20 tahun daripada ketika mereka berusia 5 sampai 10 tahun. It's like that. And then the next about motor skills. It's solely related with articulators of speech. Good pronunciation is clearly an important part of learning a foreign language. The better our pronunciation, the better we can communicate with others. Jadi semakin baik kita berkata, mengucap, tentu komunikasi kita akan semakin baik. The motor skills which are involved in speech utilize what linguists call the articulators of speech. These include the mouth, lips, tongue, vocal cords, and etc. It's all related with the articulators of speech. and all of which are controlled by muscles which are under the general control of the brain. Okay, and related with it, children will do much better in the pronunciation of a second language than adults. Why? Because children have the flexibility in motor skills which adults generally have lost. Jadi lidah anak-anak itu lebih bagus, lebih baik ketimbang lidah orang dewasa. And then most persons experience the decline started on the age of 12 years. Beyond the age of 15 years, for most people, things become very difficult indeed. Jadi kebanyakan orang mengalami penurunan kualitas lisannya seperti itu. Kualitas dari cara mereka mengucapkan berbahasa. Okay, and then the second social factors here, talking about it, there are two kinds of situations, natural and classroom situations. The first, it's all about the natural situation. A natural situation for second language learning is one where the second language is experienced in a situation that is similar to that in which the native language is learned. It's just like a common day, it's just like that. That is, language is experienced in conjunction with the object, situations, and events of everyday life. It's just like a common day. It can involve social situations such as that of family, play outside there with friends, and the workplace with the colleagues, with the partners in your office. Okay, there is a decline also in the kind of social interaction which promotes language learning as one gets older. Adult second language learners will typically have significantly fewer good language learning opportunities in a new language community than will children. And beside that, cultural adaptation also here in natural situations can affect language learning. Schumann in 1978 argues that the degree to which a person adapts to a new culture will determine his or her level of attainment in the foreign language. Affecting. And beside that, here in the natural situation, simplification especially may give children a further advantage in the natural language learning context. It's the way communicating children to children, each other, by the simplification. It will be so helpful. And the next, about classroom situation. The classroom situation involves the social situation of the school classroom. Yes, as we know, at school, in school, learn together with children, with students in the classroom. And the classroom is isolated from other social life. It's not like the natural situation. Everything is planned. Little is spontaneous. Yes, of course, because it is not a natural situation. The classroom for second language learning is a planned situation. As we all know, physically, there is a room that is isolated from the rest of social life. In purpose, of course. In the room, there is a teacher and a number of students. As we know, we are teachers. And students do not act on their own but follow the directions of the teacher. What teacher said, students will follow, will do as teacher said. And another aspect of life are suspended or subordinated to language learning. It's part of what is the negative side of the classroom situation. Okay, and then the strategies in the classroom situations that we can do this exposure. to good native speech. It will be so meaningful. Role playing, music, of course, enjoyable, and games are some of the devices employed to allow for the natural self-discovery of language and its use. We can use it. Still, it's the teacher who plans and controls such activities. And actually, as generally the ability to learn in a classroom setting improves with age because older children and adults can adapt better to the classroom regimen and are more receptive to materials taught through explication. Yes, as we know, the the thinking for adult and older children better than children. Okay then. The questions: who is better, children or adults? We must first determine whether we are dealing with the natural or the classroom situation. Each situation must be considered separately in relation to the psychological factors which affect the learning of language. The first, for the natural situation. In a natural situation, the social activities of children, especially young children, expose them to massive amounts of good natural language. It should become natural. This doesn't occur for adults and in many cases not even for older children. And then, it will be easier for children to learn syntax than it will be for adults. Why? This is because adults undergo a decline in memory, and without remembered data, there is nothing to analyze for adults, but not for children. And then in the natural situation of second language learning, young children will do better than adults, with other children doing better than adults do. It's all related with natural situations. And how about for the classroom situation? Okay, in the classroom situation, adults will do better than young children. Why? Because not only are they better in explicative processing, but simply put, they know how to be students. Yes, of course, adults know better as students than children. They have sufficient maturity to meet the rigors of a formal learning environments where concentration, attention, and even the ability to sit still for a long time all play a role in learning. Yes, of course. An adult's better here. And the older child will probably do better than the adult in the classroom situations. Okay then. And the best age to learn a second language in the typical explication classroom situation is probably that age where the individual retains much of the memory and motor skills of the very young, but where the individual has begun to reason and understand like an adult. That age would probably be somewhere around 10 years. So, the best age to learn a second language in the typical explication. Yeah, Steinberg said around 10 years. Okay, in the classroom situation, older children will do best. Adults will do better than young children to the extent that the young children's classroom is not a simulation of the natural situation. Yeah, that's about the classroom situations. And the conclusion here, in the natural situation of language learning, we have determined that young children will do better than adults, And so will older children. It is not even uncommon for young children to learn a second language in a year or less. Thus, children do better than adults in natural situation. And how about in the classroom situation? In the classroom situation here, older children will do better than adults. However, young adults will do better than young children to the extent that the young children's classroom is not a simulation of the natural situation. In the simulation case, young children will do better. Okay, that's the answer. And then the third about some other influences in second language learning here. The first about language community context. English as a second language or English as a foreign language. As Fatman said in 1978, because the ESL, English as second language context, provides more language learning opportunities for the second language learner through exposure to natural situations outside the classroom. Such learners, unsurprisingly, will generally progress more rapidly than learners living in EFL context, English as a foreign language. That's what Feldman said. And then, the natural situation benefits children more than adults. Of course, the ESL context will benefit children more than it will adults. Of course, the ESL context will benefit adults too, but to a lesser degree. Conversely, adults can do better in the EFL context where they can apply their superior cognitive skills for learning in the classroom situations. Jadi kalau natural situations, children better. Children is the best. Tapi kalau classroom situation, tentu adults better. And then the next influences here about motivation. Talking about motivation. A 1 or 2 year old needs no motivation to learn a second language, Steinberg said. Given language input, the young child will automatically learn with learning even occurring in negative circumstances. Meskipun lingkungannya itu negatif, tetap akan mereka belajar bahasa yang ada di sekitar mereka. But an older child of 4 or 5 years, however, may need motivation in order to learn a second language since by the age the child may be aware of whether a language is positively or negatively regarded by others. And then the amount of exposure which one receives and the amount of attention and effort which one devotes to learning may be affected by one's motivation. It's still related. Dislike of a teacher, for example, could seriously affect language learning unless it is balanced by a high degree of motivation that enables one to persist. Ya, salah satu contoh about dislike of a teacher. You do not like your teacher, of course, it will affect your motivation in learning. And the same could be said for variables such as liking a teacher. Sebaliknya, sama juga. We can say if you like your teacher, your English teacher, your motivation may be upgraded as follows. Okay then, still about motivation. The goal of wanting to learn a language for the purpose of integrating and identifying oneself with the second language people and culture, here we call it integrative motivation, has been thought by some theorists. This is like what Gardner and Lambert said in 1972. to be better than learning for the purpose of using the language for some ends such as getting a job. May call it instrumental motivation. And then, however, accumulated research evidence indicates that these integrative and instrumental motivations work equally well. So it doesn't matter by the integrative motivations or instrumental motivations, it worked equally well. Doesn't matter. Just like what Bristol in 1975 and Luckman in 1972 stated it's like that. Okay? And the next about attitude. Attitude. First, a negative attitude towards the target language or its speakers or the other members of the class may also affect one's determination and persistence to be involved in the classroom and its activities. This is what Chihara and others said, and the others. And this same negative attitude could impair memory functioning and detract from focusing on the target language. Jadi, sikap negatif juga akan mempengaruhi fungsi dari ingatan dan melemahkan fokus seperti itu terhadap bahasa yang dipelajari. In the same way, any of a host of personality and sociocultural variables could have deleterious effects. Just like the same. Kepribadian dan sosiokultur budaya sosial yang lain juga mengikuti, mempengaruhi sesuatu. And then many variables such as status and cultural background become more patent with the age of the learner and are important considerations in the classroom learning situation. And then another question here. Is there a critical age for second language learning? Interesting question here. Okay, one psycholinguist, call him Thomas Scoville, has claimed that no adult can ever be successful to learn a second language so well sounds like a native speaker. He says like that. He said like that. But yes, he said that the critical period for accentless speech simply means that adults will never learn to pass themselves off as native speakers phonologically. So he said that, oh, it is impossible. But Steinberg and associates stated that they agree with Scoville that in second language acquisition there is no critical age for syntax. Yeah. But they cannot agree that there is an absolute critical age for pronunciation. Native speaker pronunciation may well be achieved by some adults. He and his associates say like that. Okay, I think that's all for the highlight of children and adults in second language learning. Thank you very much for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.